What's up, YouTube? Your boy Omo Mustard is back, and of course, as you see the title, I am reviewing WWE Royal Rumble 2024. Now, I did plan to make this a stream, but unfortunately, I had a lot of technical difficulties with my computer. It was just tweaking for no reason. So if you guys saw the notification pop up, whether you were on your phone, computer, wherever it was, yes, I was trying to stream. I think I tried like 3 times and it didn't work. One of the times I did a stream, I messed up because I left it on private at the time. It was just insane goofiness going on my end. Hopefully this doesn't happen again because I do plan to stream after events in the future, whether it's like the Elimination Chamber or WrestleMania. I do plan to get online and stream after those pay-per-views are over to give my live reactions and my review of the show. But I decided to give an audio version of this because I just think it's a easier way to get this up and uploaded as fast as possible. The NFL games are later today, and I know nobody's going to be watching a live stream or, a full-on video at that point. So I just decided to get it done in the fastest way possible. So let's talk about the Royal Rumble. My overall thoughts before I get into the detail, the show was decent. I don't think the show was anything special. I think it had one great Rumble. We'll get to that in a second. But as a whole, there was only 4 matches on the card. The Women's Rumble, then the WWE Championship Fatal 4-Way, Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens, and then the Men's Rumble. So there really wasn't too much on the show to really grade, but based on what we did see, I'll say the Rumble was not bad. It was decent, but it was nothing special. I say if you have to go back and watch one thing on the show, I would say go back and watch the Women's Royal Rumble. The Women's Royal Rumble was the best thing on the show, and I think it's pretty obvious. They had some good surprises, like literally from the beginning. We'll get to that, like I said, in a second. But they had great moments. They had great debuts. Jade Cargill, I mean, no spoiler here, but I guess I might as well say it. Jade Cargill made her debut and had a great moment. And we had a great winner, a very satisfying winner. Bayley is going to WrestleMania. She won't be in the main event, of course, because we know Roman and Cody are getting that spot. And more than likely, night 1 is going to go to whoever Seth Rollins is facing. So regardless, though, the Women's Rumble, this was not only the best Rumble on the show, but this was the best Women's Rumble that they've ever done. But yeah, this cleared the fuck out of the Men's Rumble. And that's not to say the Men's Rumble was bad, but I don't think they got the reception from the crowd that they probably anticipated for certain moments. And a lot of that falls on the shoulders of CM Punk. But trust me, we will get to that later on in this review when I talk about the Men's Rumble in detail. Let's talk about the Women's Rumble, though. To start things off, we had Natalya coming out at number 1. No surprise. When I saw her music hit, or I should say heard her music hit, I groaned. Just like I'm sure a lot of you guys at home or in the audience, because, nothing against Natalya, but anytime she just comes out, I'm just like, here she comes again. And like I said, I've seen her for so many years in that company. It's like, how many times are we going to recycle her coming out and coming out and coming out? I sound like a hater, and I probably am. Regardless, at number 2, we had Naomi. Naomi was the first surprise of the Women's Royal Rumble. And I was really happy because not only did she come out, but she got a great reaction. For those who don't know, I'm sure most of y'all do, but I'll still explain anyway. When she left WWE with Sasha Banks, a lot of people were like, oh, how much motion does she really have anyway? What is she going to do without WWE? I mean, Sasha, she could go and make a name for herself, right? And even Sasha, some people were doubting. They were like, oh, what's she going to be without WWE? But they have proven that no matter what company they're in, they're going to put out quality work. Her in TNA as Knockouts champion, and Sasha in New Japan and now creating so much interest for herself that there's like a bidding war between WWE and AEW. Don't let some of these reports fool you. You think WWE wouldn't take Sasha Banks back in a heartbeat? They definitely would. They don't want to see her go to AEW. And the same thing with somebody like Naomi, formerly Trinity Fatu. But, I mean, she's still Trinity, but you get my point there. Naomi came back and she got a great reaction from the fans. She even got emotional. And I was so happy for her because she deserved it. She deserved it. She even got like the Iron Woman spot. She lasted, I think, an hour in the Rumble, and she did great. She didn't look gassed, unlike some other people who returned tonight, but we'll get to that later on. She didn't look like she was out of place. They treated her like the top star she was when she left, if not even better. And I hope she goes on to bigger and better things in this company because she deserves it, and they need the star power in that division. Now, what show she's going to be on, I don't know. I would assume she should go to SmackDown because Jimmy Uso's on that show. But, you know, considering there probably will be a draft after WrestleMania, I assume, right? Because I think that's what they did this year or last year, I should say. So maybe she'll go to Raw. Who knows? Future is up in the air. But great return from Naomi. She had a great performance. Another surprise return we got in the Rumble was Jordynne Grace, the current TNA Knockouts champion. That was shocking, but I shouldn't be too surprised because they've worked with TNA before in the past. We saw Mickie James, even though that was probably like a makeup for how she left WWE and they sent her belongings in a trash bag, which is just so fucking insane to me still to this day. But Jordynne Grace coming as the TNA champion is not something that they haven't done before because Mickie was the TNA Knockouts champion when she came in the Royal Rumble. I think that was 2021 or 2, one of those years. But nice to see Jordynne Grace, and she didn't come out there and look weak. She had a lot of power spots. She eliminated a couple people. They made her look like she was a top star in that company. And she got a reaction. It's not like people didn't know who she was. Obviously not as big as a reaction as like a Naomi, but she didn't come out there to silence. She got a legitimate reaction. That's somebody that I'm sure WWE would not mind having one day when she's off her TNA contract. She probably is destined to go to WWE at this point. But I think she still has years left on that TNA deal. But I do expect to probably see her one day in WWE. Now, there were other things in this Rumble. Even though this was a good Rumble from the women, there were a couple spots that weren't very good. And the first thing that comes to mind is Maxine. Maxine Dupree, for all her good looks, and trust me, she is a good-looking woman. I say that as a black man, but at the end of the day, every man needs their milk. And she is solid quality milk. I will not deny it. But unfortunately, she is not ready yet. And I don't mean that to say she'll never be ready or she'll never be good. But at this moment, she is not a great wrestler. She's not. She tried a Hurricanrana spot with Bayley twice, and it just wasn't good. If you go back and watch it, it's like kind of cringe. She then did a caterpillar later on in the match. That was somewhat decent. Actually, it was good. I won't even lie. It was a good caterpillar, but it's the caterpillar. Like, come on. That's not a legitimate wrestling move other than the elbow drop. The rest of it, you're doing the worm. Or not the worm. Actually, is it the worm? Whatever the fuck that shit is. I'm sorry. It's just nothing special, you know? And Maxine, you know, she's relatively new to this. I think I can count on my fingers the amount of actual singles matches she's had, you know, because I think her first or second match was that match she had on Raw with Valhalla, or I guess Sarah Logan, Valhalla, whatever the fuck her name is. That was the last singles match she had. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know if she's ever going to be ready. I think she's good in doses, good in spots where she can hit like a suplex here and there. But full on matches, she wasn't ready for a spot like this. And I kind of don't even blame her because she's new. She's new to this. She needs to go to that PC. And if they really want to take her serious and build her up, let her go to NXT. You have a place that can develop her. Because if she can become a really good wrestler, there's a spot for her on that roster. There's definitely a spot. And even if she doesn't wrestle, if it doesn't work out, she can talk. She has personality, so that's that as far as some of the botches go. Maxine is like the perfect example of that. Now, I will say something that shocked me is that, Damage Control was eliminated pretty early in this match. And that's probably going to feed into the story because Bayley came out at number 3 shortly after Asuka and Kairi Sane came out, and they were eliminated fairly early. And when Kairi got eliminated, I could have swore she was like trying to get back in the ring because they did a spot where Kairi was hanging on by the apron with her feet. And you know how they changed one side of the apron to like LED. So she was like hanging onto the LED board with her feet. And if you go back and watch it, it was a pretty cool spot. I thought she was going to get back in the ring. And then she eventually just gave out and fell to the floor. And I was like, man, was that a botch? It looked like it could have been a botch and she just couldn't hold on because Asuka was trying to pull her up. And it just looked like an actual botch. But then Asuka got eliminated like right after. So I was like, oh, maybe this is just part of the plan. And shortly after, or not shortly after, but by the end of the match, it looked like it probably fed into the story they were telling with Damage Control because Asuka and Kairi, right, even though they won the tag titles on SmackDown, they did not fulfill their roles in this match. And if you watch the match, especially with Asuka, Bayley saved her so many times. And when Asuka got in the ring, from her entrance, she didn't even high five Bayley back. She like left her hanging. So the story they're telling is that Bayley has consistently had their back, even when it looked like they didn't have hers. And this is just another layer towards the Damage Control story that I'm sure when we get to WrestleMania time, Bayley's not going to pick Rhea. She's going to pick Io. But yeah, I was shocked that they were eliminated that early. But it's still good for the story. Now, we did get a comedy spot with R-Truth coming out at number 24. They've done something like this before where R-Truth just forgets the matches he's in. I didn't really think this spot was that funny. The second one was a little better. But he comes out at 24. And when he came out at 24, I immediately told myself, I was like, oh, he's going to come out at 24 in the men's match because he obviously got the Rumbles confused. Ha, ha, ha. I didn't think that spot was that funny. And I actually think R-Truth is a funny guy, but that spot just didn't really move me. But let's move on to the Royal Rumble. Nia Jax, she was out and just dumping people in this match. She did really well at getting heat. And say what you want about Nia's in-ring ability, her promos, whatever you want to critique her on, but that's the one thing she has been great at doing throughout her whole career. The heat she gets, she's like not only a magnet, but she's like a great conductor for it. She can use it and just absorb it and just make anybody that beats her or does a move on her look great. And that led into Jade Cargill making her debut at number 28. And when she came out, I actually think she had the same entrance music as her AEW theme, right? Because it started off with A Storm Is Coming, which is a great intro to her theme, by the way. And she looked great, like not just in the ring. Forget that for a second. She looked great. This woman looks like a fucking superhero. Honestly, she said she wants to play Storm one day. She got that look down pat. I mean, seriously, she looks like $1,000,000. She's toned. She got good muscle. She looks great. She's fine. And on top of that, she has that aura about her. Seriously, people always talk about Roman Reigns' aura. She's the kind of woman and person in general, right? Because this applies to men and women. But when she just walks in a room, even if you don't think she's a great wrestler, you want to know what she's doing. It's like a whoa. It's insane. And she was born to be in a place like WWE. When she was in AEW and she was a little green, of course, she needs to improve in the ring. Definitely steps she needs to take. But when she was in AEW, I always thought to myself, man, the Performance Center would be like heaven for somebody like this. She could go down there, perfect her craft, use NXT to get better, and she'd be the perfect WWE superstar in that division for them. And I firmly believe this Rumble just confirmed to me, and I'm sure this was Triple H's goal for her in this match, but it confirmed to me that she will be a star in this company one day. If she isn't already, I mean, she got a star reaction. The fans immediately knew who she was, not only because a lot of fans knew her from her time in AEW, but they've been showing her on TV in numerous segments. So you've already kind of acclimated her with the audience to some degree, and people know her from her time in AEW, and she's popular on social media. I think she's got like 1 million followers, and that was before she came to WWE. So she's got that emotion. She's got the motion for show. But she came out and she actually got the big spot of the match. She eliminated Nia Jax. After all that heat that Nia got, it transferred to Jade on her debut. Jade was great. She wasn't there too long. She stayed until the ending of the match, but she did great in the spots that she needed to do. And she lifted Nia up in the fireman's carry. She flexed while she did it. She did it so effortlessly, dropped Nia on the floor, and then pulled Andre Hulk Hogan slam out the ring. Kind of like how Cesaro, when he eliminated the Big Show in that WrestleMania 30 Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, that was basically what she did. She threw Nia over the top rope. One thing I kind of didn't really like about this is that moment should have been strictly about her, and then they panned to Becky Lynch, who was kind of taunting Nia, standing side by side with Jade. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think Becky's a selfish wrestler or anything. I don't think she's the one who, tried to take her spotlight or anything, but I don't know. I just kind of thought that moment should have been just about Jade, but I'm nitpicking. It's whatever. It's not really that big of a deal. Nonetheless, though, later on in the match, we got Liv Morgan coming out at number 30. And I won't lie, when we were ticking down to number 30, I really started thinking to myself, I was like, okay, what are the realistic options here? Right? Because the whole match, I was pulling for a Sasha Banks return. It was unlikely, right? Because we've heard the reports that she's probably going to AEW, but she hadn't debuted yet. And I was just praying and praying Sasha Banks would come back. And it's not only because I wanted to see her back in WWE, but I want to see that Sasha and Bianca rematch so bad that we were supposed to get at SummerSlam a couple years ago. And with Charlotte out, I thought it would be a perfect time to just slot Sasha right back in. But then I also thought to myself, we could get AJ Lee, right? AJ Lee is somebody that there's been no reports as far as I've heard. I mean, I'm sure there are rumors here and there, but no real reports that AJ Lee is confirmed to come back to WWE. Sure, CM Punk is back, but from the interviews I've heard, AJ Lee is fully retired. She is not a wrestler anymore. So it would have been a surprise, like an actual legitimate surprise that nobody really saw coming. I mean, maybe I guess you could say some people saw it coming because Punk came back, but it's not a legitimate rumor or report that she would come back. So it would have been great. And I'm sure the fans would have exploded. So there was a lot of anticipation, and I could just feel it in the atmosphere. I'm sure I wasn't there, but like just looking in the crowd and looking because they panned out to them, a lot of people were really anticipating that number 30 spot. And literally while it was ticking, I was like, oh my God, I forgot Liv Morgan has not come out. And she's been out for months and slated to make a return. So as soon as it was 5 seconds, I was like, it's Liv Morgan. So then, of course, she comes out at 30, and I was a little disappointed, but I like Liv Morgan. I think her fans on social media are a little annoying, but I like her. She's a good wrestler. She has a nice fan base. And she has like a underdog mentality thing about her that really makes you want to root for her. Regardless, though, I was still disappointed because AJ Lee would have been cool, really cool. You know, I liked AJ Lee back in the day. And Sasha Banks, I was just really pulling for her to come back. And it doesn't mean that these two won't come to WWE. Sasha has not made her debut in AEW. She has not been reported that she signed in AEW. It says that she's more than likely going to, right? That's the reports. But a lot of these guys, they've been wrong before. You know, Sean Ross Sapp, Dave Meltzer, a lot of these guys have been wrong before. I'll just say that. Nonetheless, though, Liv Morgan came out at 30, and we actually had a really good ending to this Rumble. At the end, you had Naomi, Jade, Liv, Bayley, Bianca, Tiffany Stratton also, who debuted in this Rumble. I don't know if she's actually on the main roster, but, you know, she's a really good athlete. She actually came out and did a swanton into like a pool of the women's wrestlers, and it looked like a beautiful move. It was amazing. So yeah, she was there at the end. I think Roxanne Perez was also there. But basically the ending of this match I thought was great. You had Becky, who was kind of hanging on the apron outside after being thrown over the top. But she was hanging in there. And then Naomi came and, jumped on Jade, and Naomi kicked Becky out the ring. And then she got tossed out the ring by Jade. And it was like, it was one of those moments that when it happened, I almost thought it was a botch. I almost did. But then, like, on replay, it looked like Naomi purposely kicked Becky out the ring. So I was like, oh, okay, that can't be a botch, obviously. And Becky could have, got back in the ring. There was a little bit of time from when she went over the top rope to when she got kicked out. So I was like, okay, obviously that wasn't a botch. And then Naomi got tossed out. They did a great spot with Bianca and Tiffany Stratton where Tiffany Stratton got hit with like a code breaker on the apron by Liv Morgan. And then Tiffany Stratton started pulling Bianca's hair because Bianca was already over the top rope as well, hanging onto the apron, or the ropes, I should say. And she was pulling her hair all the way back to the point that Tiffany Stratton's shoulders were basically on the floor while she was pulling Bianca's hair, who was on the apron. And while she was hanging on, Bayley comes in and kicks Bianca, which inevitably eliminates her and Tiffany Stratton from the Rumble. And I thought that was a great spot. And they immediately panned to Bayley, and she's smiling so deviously. I thought that was a great, heel moment for Bayley. Kind of like a little revenge with the whole thing of Damage Control and Bianca. They've been feuding for so long. I remember those like 3 straight matches where Bianca just beat Bayley over and over and over. But yeah, I loved it. It was a great spot. But later on, we got the final 3 to come down to Liv, Jade, and Bayley. And at this point, I kind of knew Bayley was going to win, but I did not eliminate the idea of Liv Morgan, because a lot of fans have been wanting Liv Morgan to go on to WrestleMania and beat Rhea Ripley, or at least challenge Rhea Ripley, because the story. As if we've never seen that match multiple times. As if, Liv Morgan's story is more intriguing than a Becky Lynch. Like, I don't understand what these people are seeing. She is not going to go to WrestleMania and even beat Rhea Ripley. Beating her is crazy enough, but getting there is also insane, But yeah, it came down to those 3, and they kind of redid the spot of last year where they had the final 3 women on the apron. And you got Liv, Jade, and Bayley. Liv hits her Oblivion to Jade on the apron, and Jade gets eliminated that way. But while Liv is on the floor of the apron, Bayley already rolled back in, and she kicks Liv to the floor, and Bayley wins the Royal Rumble match. And when I tell you that crowd exploded, you got to go back and watch it. It was a great moment for Bayley. And I say this all the time. Bayley is kind of like the, I guess, what would you say, the odd one out of the horsewoman? She's kind of like the the little sister of the horsewomen. When you look at all their careers, they've all done things that stand out, right? Like Charlotte was in the main event, the first ever women's main event. Sasha was in the main event of WrestleMania. She also got her hard, heavy fans. And then you got Becky, who elevated to heights that I would say none of the horsewomen really elevated to, as far as like real star power in that company. She was a part of that first ever women's main event. Because she was so big, they had to put her in that match, right? But then you got Bayley, who's had success, but she's kind of like the odd one out, right? Like she won Money in the Bank. She's won championships. She's had great matches. But if you really talk about like the defining moment of Bayley's career, it's not even on the main roster. Honestly, it's actually in NXT when she had that Iron Woman match with Bianca. I'm getting my words mixed up. When she had the Iron Woman match with Sasha, that was a great match. That's her best moment, though. There's never been a moment on the main roster that even comes close to that. Hell, her first run was so bad, she was getting booed. And if you told me NXT Bayley would get booed on the main roster, I would have been so shocked. And then they had to turn her heel, and it feels like she's been a heel for a long time. And the babyface Bayley turn, I think it's coming. Actually, I know it's coming. You can see it from a mile away. And it's about damn time. It's long overdue. And I'm very interested to see how a babyface Bayley that's not doing the hugger stuff is going to look. I'm very intrigued to see. But yeah, I was super happy for Bayley. She deserved this. I'm sorry if you can hear my dogs barking in the background, but she deserves this. Once I saw Becky get eliminated, I was like, okay, so Bayley's going to win. And she did it. Shout out to Bayley. They're going to tease that she's going to challenge Rhea. It's kind of like the Batista storyline. It actually reminds me a lot of the Batista storyline with Triple H when Batista won the Royal Rumble, and you knew he was going to pick Triple H, but they teased that he was going to pick JBL, right? But in the end, he realized Triple H is using him, and he wants Triple H at WrestleMania. So I think the same thing's going to happen here with Bayley and Io. There's going to be some cracks in damage control that probably lead to either her seeing that they're using her or that they don't value her for real, or, they're going to kick her out. Hell, I wouldn't be shocked if on SmackDown they just beat the piss out of Bayley. But I think it's going to be a slow build. It's going to be gradual. Maybe we'll get the angle before Elimination Chamber or after. Who knows? Regardless, though, I'm really happy for Bayley. She deserved the win. The next match on the card was the WWE title Fatal 4-Way match with Roman Reigns, the champion, the GOAT, LA Knight, Randy Orton, and AJ Styles. Now, this match was solid. I don't think this match was bad, but it was kind of disappointing. I don't know. I was just expecting a little more, and I think the fan reaction, like the crowd reaction, they were up for the match, but I don't think certain spots were, at least on TV, I don't think they were received the way they probably thought they would. But regardless, they all came out. People that think LA Knight, I've been seeing a lot on social media, people saying, oh, LA Knight's reactions aren't great anymore. Go watch the show. Watch this match. Fans still love LA Knight. I don't know what people are hearing. They still say yeah after every time his name is mentioned. They say yeah when he's smashing people's heads into the announce table. They react well to the BFT. I don't know what people are talking about when they say LA Knight is not over anymore. You're just hating just to hate. Roman Reigns. Michael Cole had a great line on commentary. And of course, this is all kayfabe here. But Michael Cole had a line where he was like, I hear fans always saying Roman Reigns never defends his title enough. He only defends it like once every 3-4 months. Well, the right solution to that, I say, beat him. And he has a point. Of course, this is all storyline, but he has a point. Then you get into Roman's aura. You know, I know a lot of people think Roman's boring. They think Roman is, wasting our time. He's not a real wrestler anymore. He doesn't even do the moves he used to do. All this criticism, he's part-time, all of it. It makes sense why you don't see him on TV that often. I've talked about it in a video before. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. But Roman Reigns still has insane aura. You watch him come out to the ring right by Paul Heyman, and he just has that thing about him, right? He has the necklace, the tribal wear. He comes out, and Samantha Irvin, when she says, "Oh, the champion Roman Reigns," when she's doing his introduction, he is such a big star. He is the biggest star in the industry. And wrestling right now in WWE is booming. They're in a boom period financially, with social media views, whatever metric you want to call it. They are booming. They're selling out shows everywhere. And who's the champion? Roman Reigns. Just keep that in mind. Keep it in mind. But regardless, the match was cool. It wasn't anything special in my opinion. I thought it was kind of like a spot fest at a point in time. There were a couple cool spots here and there. LA Knight got his announce table bashing with all these guys. Him and Randy Orton took turns doing, backdrop suplexes onto the announce table, and then Randy Orton gave him one. AJ Styles was working, I think, LA Knight for a portion of the match. Then LA Knight was working Roman Reigns. Then Randy Orton was working LA Knight. And, just went back and forth, typical thing in this match. They all hit their finishes at one point. There was a point where LA Knight hit the BFT pretty early in the match. Obviously, Randy and AJ broke up that fall. Then Randy Orton, I think, hit everybody with an RKO. And Solo Sikoa comes out to pull the referee out of the ring. And when that happened, I was like, on cue. There we go. Solo's right there. And look, I've said it before that it does not bother me that Roman Reigns cheats in his matches, but I just think they need to be more creative with it. I mean, come on. You got to be better with the way you do things, or else people are going to get bored, because there's a good chance Roman Reigns is going to retain at WrestleMania. People thinking that's not a possibility. I think you need to wake up, because that could happen. And I don't want to go through another year of the exact same ways he wins the match. Now, this one was a little bit different because that's not actually what decided the match. Solo went in for, I can't even remember the move, but he went in to hit AJ Styles in the barricade, and he, like an idiot, went through the barricade because AJ Styles moved out the way. Then AJ hit Roman with the phenomenal forearm, and I think Randy and LA Knight, or one of those two, maybe both, whatever, they broke up the pin. Fast forwarding though till the end, and everybody's out the ring. I think LA Knight got tossed out by AJ Styles. AJ comes in the ring and he gets hit with the spear by Roman Reigns, and Roman wins. Now, is it like the most clean win? Because of course Solo got involved. No, it's not the most clean win, but at the end, the result of how he won the match, like with the spear and pin, that was clean. Had nothing to do with cheating. It had nothing to do with Solo Sikoa or like a ref, being distracted. None of that. He straight up beat AJ Styles clean. And I've kind of figured AJ Styles would be in this match just to take the pin. But I did entertain like a small smidge of Randy Orton potentially winning the match. And I'm glad this match obviously went second, because it was very clear that if they went last, it was obvious Roman Reigns was going to retain. So you had to put this match before the Rumble. But I will also say this match, I think it suffered from the fact that it came right after the Women's Royal Rumble. The crowd did not seem up for this match the way they should have. I mean, they were up for the entrances to some degree, but I don't know. I just thought they could have been a lot more energetic. I've seen fans be a lot more energetic, and I think because they were all trading finishing spots and big moves here and there, they were kind of relying on the crowd reaction to carry the match to a degree. But nonetheless, it was a cool match. It wasn't anything bad. It was still entertaining. fast paced to some degree at points. So yeah, nothing more to say about that. Next match on the card was Logan Paul, the United States champion, another part-time guy, versus Kevin Owens. Now, one thing I'll say about Logan Paul, everybody has an opinion on him. Some people really don't like him. My girlfriend, she hates Logan Paul. But regardless, he's great at two things: getting heat and in the ring. Another thing about him that I like is that, unlike Roman Reigns, Logan Paul will at least film a promo. He'll film himself shooting a promo, whether it's edited one with WWE production over it, or he'll just be chilling at home. He'll make a clear selfie video or something with his phone, or he'll just set his camera up and he'll cut promos on people. Whether it's Kevin Owens or even throughout the tournament, he would cut promos on literally every single guy. It's almost like he was making up for the fact that he couldn't be there. I actually thought that was cool because to some degree, you're getting him on the show when you do that. People were saying, oh, he's not a full-time guy. He's not on the shows all the time, but he actually is on a lot of these shows, even when he's not there, if you really think about it. And I'm not saying that counts as actually a live appearance. It doesn't. But, he's at least doing something. I can see the effort. But this match, I was actually getting my hair cornrowed at the time, and it was in the process of blow drying, so I couldn't even hear the crowd reaction when I was watching this match. But from what I saw, it was really nothing special. I mean, they went back and forth. Logan hit his spots. He took off the cast. Kevin Owens hit some good moves here and there. But fast forwarding to the end, one thing about Logan Paul that I think kind of affects the ending of his matches, or at least the last two, I should say, is I don't know what Logan Paul's real finisher move is, right? Because this is a guy that in his last two matches, he's had to cheat, or at least resort to trying to cheat in this situation, right? But what is the finishing move that he has? Right? Because he has a bunch of moves that he kind of has learned in storyline, right? He has the skull crushing finale. He has the frog splash, the buckshot lariat. These are cool moves when he bursts them out. But what's the move that he uses to beat people? I mean, he's only won 2 matches, and or 3 actually, right? The Miz match, which I think he beat him with the skull crushing finale. That's not his move. That's the Miz's move. He beat Ricochet with the brass knuckles, and Rey Mysterio as well with brass knuckles. And he did the exact same attempt in this match with the brass knuckles. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, man, does he not have a finishing move yet? And that's fine, because this is his 5th, 6th match. And that's not including the Royal Rumbles that he's been in. And it was just weird to me, but it was just a thought that came over me. Regardless, though, the fast forward to the ending of the match, Logan called one of his cronies to come to the ring and give him some brass knuckles, and the ref snuffed it out. And they tried to eject him. And while they were ejecting him, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller came out, and Theory sneakily handed Logan Paul the brass knuckles, but Kevin Owens was able to snuff it out. He got the brass knuckles himself and hit Logan Paul with the brass knuckles. And when he did that, for a second, I was like, oh, so Kevin Owens is going to win the U.S. title. But then they did a really clever spot where the ref noticed the brass knuckles on Kevin Owens' hand, and he called the DQ. And it was right before he was going to hit 3. So that was a clever spot. I know a lot of people don't like disqualification finishes, and I'm sure a lot of people were not happy about that. I mean, people actively booed, of course. But I thought it was a clever finish. Obviously, they wanted to give Kevin Owens somewhat of an out. They don't want him to lose, at least not yet. And I do think the next match, it'll probably have a stipulation, maybe no DQ, or I would actually like to see these guys have a ladder match. That'd be really cool. But I'm sure there might be a stipulation in the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. I don't think they're going to go to WrestleMania with this match, because I think the WrestleMania opponent for Logan Paul will and should be LA Knight. That's how you get that title off Logan Paul. That'd be the perfect situation for all parties involved. I just don't see how LA Knight doesn't get gold at some point. So I think that would be the right situation for that to happen. But I think they'll have a rematch at the Elimination Chamber. I like the finish, even though it was a DQ, but it was a very clever way they did it. But yeah, Logan Paul retains in a solid match, but nothing really special. I think the next match these two have will be the match that's like, wow, here we go. This was a great match. But yeah, it's still decent. Nothing really too crazy though. The next match and final match on the card, the Men's Royal Rumble. Now, I have a lot of things to say about the things we saw like later on in this match, but we'll get to that in a second. This match, like I said, it was nothing really special. I thought the crowd reaction it was kind of lame. Not necessarily I'm mad at the crowd, but I'm talking like the reaction it was bland. It was like they popped for certain guys when they came out, but especially at the ending, they did not get the reaction I think they wanted. And you had some big names at the end of this match. Like the final 6 were all the guys you probably would have expected. And maybe that's why they didn't get the reaction you thought, right? Because it was predictable. Maybe that's why. But I thought the Rumble last year was predictable. And the ending, the fans got up for it. They got up for that Gunther and Cody Rhodes ending. But yeah, it started off with Jay when he came out. And as soon as he came out, I started thinking to myself, like, I'm sure Jimmy's going to come out next. And surely he did. And when the music hit, I smiled. I was like, okay, that's a nice little tease for their WrestleMania match in the future. Now, I thought later on in the match, one of them would eliminate the other, but that's not what happened at all. Hell, they didn't even really have much interaction in the match outside of the beginning when it was just those two. But whatever. I like the color contrast with these two, right? You got Jay wearing blue and Jimmy wearing a red. It's like the Bloods and the Crips. But it was cool. I liked it. Later on, you had a couple guys come out. Cody Rhodes came out at number 15. He had a couple nice moments. He eliminated Austin Theory and some other guys. We did have one surprise, though, in the Men's Rumble that really wasn't that much of a surprise when you've been following the reports and you know about his time ending in AEW, was Andrade. Andrade, he finished up his time in AEW, I believe, at the end of last year. And there was really only one place for him to go. So it was nice to see him back in the Rumble. He looked good in the time he was there. He had an interaction with Santos Escobar. It remains to be seen if they're going to go in the direction of him feuding with him or joining him, or if they're even going to interact at all on the main roster. I assume he'd be on SmackDown, considering Charlotte's on SmackDown, but she's injured right now. So who knows what's really going to be the future for him, but it's nice to see him back and he looks good. But one thing I noticed is that Braun Breaker came out. Like after Gunther came, I think Gunther came out at 17. Braun Breaker came out later on in the match. And Braun Breaker got the spot that I think is being reported also as I speak, Brock Lesnar was supposed to get. And that's completely understandable. I would have done the same thing, right? We all know the things that broke with Vince McMahon over the last couple of days. The whole lawsuit, the less said about that, really the better. I don't want to get into the details there because it's just fucking disgusting. But Brock Lesnar's name being involved, if anything, if I'm WWE, you gotta distance yourself from him right now. Even if Brock clears his name with all this stuff, I mean, the stuff in there with Brock, it wasn't like, I won't get into all that because, it's a really touchy subject. And on top of that, we don't have all the details with Brock's involvement there, but just him being involved, you can't send him out there and have him dominate a Royal Rumble match in the way that Braun Breaker was, just to set him up at WrestleMania for a match with Gunther. Because I do think that's the direction, or at least was. I don't even know if he's still going to show up, honestly. But regardless, Braun Breaker came out and he was just dumping dudes. He dumped out Finn Balor. He dumped out Jimmy Uso and a couple others. He had a nice spear on Ivar and dumped him out. I think Ivar went for like a springboard or something like that. It was a crazy spot. And later on, Braun Breaker confirmed he is on the main roster now. So this was his official call up, and I thought this was a great spot for him. He actually even eliminated Omos. Omos was eliminated by Braun Breaker while JD McDonough was coming out. And I don't think that spot got the reaction that they wanted, because why would you do that spot right when somebody else is coming out? A lot of the fans in the arena aren't even looking in the ring. They're looking at whoever's coming out. And then they did him eliminating Omos. That did not get the reaction at all that I'm sure they wanted. Because, eliminating the big guy is always, a nice reaction you get, whether it's like a Braun Strowman, a Big Show, Omos, the Great Khali, whoever it is. It gets good reaction. It would have been a nice spot for Braun Breaker, but they fucking botched it by having somebody come out at the same time. And then he also got eliminated by Dominic right after. You could have. There were so many things that were missed right there. You would have got the nice fan reaction to Braun Breaker eliminating Omos, and then you would have got Dominic getting booed out the fucking building. Now, I do wonder, though, was Dominic supposed to eliminate Brock Lesnar? That is something that I'm wondering a little bit there. But regardless, it was a good spot, just ruined by poor production right there. But yeah, then he ended up hitting a spear on JD. And afterwards, R-Truth comes out at 24. And, he throws JD in the ring because he sees him on the floor after he's been speared. And he's quickly eliminated in 5 seconds. So, yeah, JD, still a loser. R-Truth even comes in, and when he comes out at 24 after he does the shit with JD, he's calling for the hot tag. He's calling for the hot tag to Dominic. Dominic's like, man, what the hell is wrong with you, man? This is a Rumble. Get out of here with that. And then Gunther puts him in a chokehold, a sleeper. And, then he starts reaching to R-Truth, and the fans want this hot tag desperately. They're begging for it. They're chomping at the bit for R-Truth to get this hot tag. And then, he breaks free from the chokehold, gives him the hot tag, and man, the place goes crazy. They loved it. He does the shoulder tackles because, he loves John Cena, and does the 5-knuckle shuffle. I thought that was a great spot. It was a great spot. That was funny. Unlike the other R-Truth moment earlier on the Women's Rumble that I didn't think was funny at all. The only thing good that came out of that spot earlier on in the match is that Valhalla got eliminated immediately. The only probably good that came out of that. But this one, this was actually funny. Like genuinely very funny. So yeah, shout out to R-Truth, a comedy treasure. He actually got immediately eliminated by Damian Priest, who I think came out at 25 or 26, one of those spots. He came in, immediately decked R-Truth, and threw him over the top rope. Now, we know why he did that. He's pissed about what happened on Monday Night Raw, with Truth costing him the match against Drew McIntyre. So that made sense completely, because there's clearly a story that they're telling with R-Truth and the Judgment Day. I don't think they would have kept R-Truth around with the Judgment Day for this long if they didn't have something planned. And that's why I personally feel like him and The Miz are going to become the tag team champions at WrestleMania. These are the seeds that they're planning. Everybody thinks it's just comedy. But if it was going to be DIY, they would not be doing that match this early and doing it on Raw. I'm just saying, I do believe that R-Truth and The Miz will be winning those tag titles from Damian Priest and Finn Balor at WrestleMania. It'll be a nice feel-good moment. The fans will go crazy. They definitely will. And R-Truth, I think, will pin Damian Priest. So, yeah. Then we got CM Punk coming out at number 27. Now, CM Punk, I talked about it earlier. I addressed it a little bit, but let me just get into it. CM Punk was gassed super early in this match. He did not look good in this match. And I love CM Punk. As you guys know, he's one of my favorite wrestlers ever. But this guy, let's just get something straight. Punk was never the most athletic dude in the world, right? That's kind of one of his weaknesses, if anything. But he was athletic enough back in the day. He was faster, he was stronger, he was quicker. He'd do a lot more high-flying spots. But CM Punk is so far removed from the body he had back then, and clearly is not even close to the athlete. So if you're not close to the athlete, you would at least expect him to be in better shape, right? I know it's a lot of it is ring rust. He had a really good match with Samoa Joe in his last time in AEW with the All-In pay-per-view. But bro, this was not good. He was moving slow. He was clearly tired, and it affected the ending of the match, which we'll get to in a bit. But this was not a good performance from CM Punk, man. It wasn't good. And if you're CM Punk, you had all this time from when you left AEW to when you came to WWE, and I think you didn't have a match for about like 2 months. Granted, he had a match with Dom, but that was a house show match, basically, right? The MSG show. That was not a televised match. Why were you not in the gym? And maybe he was, right? Maybe he was, but his body, it doesn't look that much different than his time in AEW. And I'm afraid that CM Punk might be washed. I'm afraid of it. And obviously, if the paths keep going that he's facing Seth Rollins is going to wrestle circles around him. And that statement from Rollins saying, when we get in the ring, I'm going to show you who the true best in the world is. That might be more true than we realize. But I'll get to CM Punk a little bit more afterwards when we get there to the final showdown. We had Drew McIntyre come out at 29. He got a couple of eliminations, including who came out at number 30, who a lot of people were, expecting MJF. I don't know why people actually thought that was going to happen. MJF is obviously still in AEW. But Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn comes out at number 30. Gets a nice reaction. I don't think he got the reaction they thought. But the fans still, they liked Sami. They sang his theme song, and he came out. He went directly at Drew McIntyre because when we last saw him, he was taken out by Drew McIntyre. That might actually be the WrestleMania match for those two. Or at least maybe that'll be the match at the Elimination Chamber, or it'll be a storyline they go into the Chamber match with, because I do think there will be a Chamber involving those two. Whatever it is, Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn, that's some unfinished business there. But shortly after, Drew actually dumped Sami Zayn from the Royal Rumble. So like I said, there's going to be some unfinished business there between those two. But the ending of the Rumble came down to who you would expect. Drew McIntyre, Gunther, Cody Rhodes, and CM Punk. Drew McIntyre was eliminated by CM Punk, and that obviously will be a seed planted. We saw the promo between those two 2 weeks ago. That was a really good promo. Drew's doing some of his best work, man. Actually, this might be the best run of his career. But that was a good promo to plant some seeds there, and I'm sure this is just another step in their story between those two, whether it leads to a match between them or a spot in the Elimination Chamber match, whatever it is. I do think it's a nice story they're telling with those two. And I cannot wait for them to have their proper one-on-one match or program, whatever it is. Gunther was eliminated by, I believe, Cody Rhodes. And just like last year, time never ceases to amaze me. But then we get to the final two of CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. This was not good. Cody Rhodes was obviously fine for the spots he was doing, but CM Punk, Cody had to carry him. And Punk, like I said, he just looked tired. He looked gassed. And mind you, Punk came out at 27. At 27, the last time we saw CM Punk, he came out at number 1 in the Royal Rumble. He looked better at the end of that Rumble when he got eliminated by Kane than he did here. And granted, that was 10 years ago almost. But man, this was not good. They tried to have it back and forth. Punk, I think even earlier in the match, not with Cody, but he hit a pedigree and it didn't even look good. It didn't even look good. Punk, almost everything he did in this match just didn't look good. And I'm not trying to hate. Maybe he has to get the ring rust off him, but man, I just hope my goat's not washed. I hope my goat's not washed. You hate to see your guys become like this. But regardless, they had a back and forth. Cody hit a Cody cutter. Punk hit a go to sleep. And then Punk had the line that I basically knew right then and there he was not going to win. He was about to hit another go to sleep on Cody Rhodes, and I assume dump him out over the top rope, when he had a line saying, "I didn't come back just to lose to Dusty's kid." It was a great line, but also was a dead giveaway that he was not going to win this match, because there's just no way he's going to say that and then dump Cody out like a fucking loser. So he tries to go for the go to sleep. Cody catches him and dumps him out over the top rope. And Cody Rhodes is officially, I believe, the fourth man to go back to back in the Royal Rumble. The first man since Stone Cold Steve Austin did it. So shout out to Cody Rhodes, man. Great win, great moment right there for him. And it was very obvious that he picked Roman Reigns. We saw Roman holding up his title. He's not picking Seth Rollins. Like, let's be serious. So that's the WrestleMania main event. It's set in stone now. Whether they add The Rock to it and make it a triple threat, or maybe Roman versus The Rock is night one, whatever it is, we know on night two, Cody Rhodes will be in that match with Roman Reigns, one way or another. But I do think it more than likely means The Rock versus Roman Reigns is not happening this year. It probably will happen next year. I mean, The Rock said he likes to play the long game in his interview with First Take. So I think it's really clear that they're not doing that match this year. And that's good. Cody needs to finish his story. They don't even need the fucking championship for their match anyway. Cody needs to finish the story, even though there's a chance he may not still. I'm just going to tell you this right now. Don't think it's set in stone that Cody Rhodes is going to win that match. But I do think Cody Rhodes, just having the opportunity, man, there's just no way you put him through all this shit with Brock Lesnar, Shinsuke Nakamura, the tag titles, the things with Judgment Day, all this shit that he went through this year. And then still have him say, I'm going to finish the story. I'm going to finish the story. Just for him to not finish the story, that's tough. Or not even not finish the story, not even get the chance to finish the story. You know, it'd be tough. And I'll tell you this right now. If I'm Cody Rhodes in kayfabe and I lose at WrestleMania, I'm turning heel. That's got to be the only way you could even salvage Cody Rhodes at that point. But yeah, nice moment for Cody. But my takeaway with this Royal Rumble, honestly, other than the fact that Cody won back to back, CM Punk, he might be washed. Yeah, he might be washed. But regardless, I thought it was still a decent show. Nothing special. I would say out of 10, I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10. You know, 7, maybe a 7, but I'm leaning towards a 6. The reason I'd give it a 6 is because that Women's Rumble just carried everything else on the show. The Fatal 4-Way wasn't bad, but nothing really special. It was cool, but nothing, like I said, just nothing really crazy. The Logan and Kevin Owens match, I thought it was a clever ending, but you know, the match itself, I think is pretty forgettable. It was decent, but nothing really special. And then the Men's Rumble was bland. There really wasn't any surprises. There was not many surprises whatsoever. Actually, no. There was a spot I forgot. Pat McAfee was a surprise. That was stupid. That was not cool. That was boring. Not boring. It was just dumb. He came out at 22 and he tried to, you know, get in the ring, and then he backed out and eliminated himself. Waste of a spot. Could have gave that to Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, somebody else, but no. That was whack. Regardless, though, yeah, this was a pretty bland Royal Rumble. Nothing really over overly special. But happy that Cody got his moment. Happy that Bayley got her moment. And yeah, like those two results, I'm very satisfied with. But as a whole, the pay-per-view, I give it like a 6 out of 10. Nothing really overtly special. But those are my thoughts on the Royal Rumble. I'll get this out within the next hour or two. You guys will see it on YouTube. I'll try to put this also on Apple Podcast. Get these audio clips there because I'm not going to do too much editing with this on YouTube. So I'll make sure I'll put the link for the Apple Podcast and Spotify in the description. Appreciate you guys for showing up and showing out and showing love to the channel consistently like y'all always do. Make sure y'all like, share, subscribe to the channel, and press that bell for post notifications. This is your boy, Omo Mustard, signing out. Y'all stay safe and have a blessed day. Peace.